back. Former DOJ attorney Hans von Spakovsky, former Whitewater deputy special counsel Saul Wisenberg. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us. Let's break this down. First to you, Hans. What do you make of this? U.S. Attorney David Weiss in Delaware confirms in a letter to Senator Lindsey Graham that, yes, the FBI has an active, quote, ongoing DOJ FBI investigation into bribery allegations into Joe and Hunter Biden. What do you make of this?
Well, I'm wondering what's taking him so long. This investigation has gone on for years, and I'm just astonished at how slow they have been to do this. I mean, look, they just filed multiple charges against this potential witness, Gal Luft, which, by the way, included violations of FARA, the Foreign Agent Registration Act. Why? For receiving $700,000 from the very same Chinese energy company that paid Hunter Biden $5 million.
So then why didn't Hunter Biden register as a foreign agent? You know, Saul, what do you make of this? This allegation is that both Joe and Hunter Biden got $5 million apiece in a bribery scheme with a Ukrainian oligarch. Senator Chuck Grassley, Saul, says there are 17 audio recordings on this. What do you make of all this, Saul?
It's impossible to know what to make of it, Liz, based on the record as we know it. But as you know, the easiest way for the Department of Justice not to talk about something that Congress wants to talk about is to say there's an ongoing investigation. But that, again, that investigation has been going on for a long time. And I'll tell you this, if David Weiss in Delaware is the guy in charge of it, we're in real trouble, because his public statements, his 3 recent letters in the last 3 weeks to various members of Congress, trying to set the record straight each time, and each time making it fuzzier, are very, very disturbing. He obviously is not being forthcoming. He obviously lied to a room full of FBI and IRS agents on October 7th of 2022 when he told them, he either told them the truth or he lied when he told them that he went to D.C. and was denied authority to charge Hunter Biden there, and he went to the U.S. Attorney's Office in California and was denied authority there, and then went to Maine Justice and was told, no, follow the process. He denies all of that. So he's either lying to the room full of FBI agents, or he's lying now, and his letters are so pettifogging and so muddled, almost intentionally, they're embarrassing. And so if he is the person in his office in charge of the investigation, we got problems. So
picking up on what Saul just said, Hans, we've got Senator Chuck Grassley sending a letter to U.S. Attorney David Weiss. He's demanding information on why Assistant U.S. Attorney Leslie Wolf and FBI agents from the Baltimore field office didn't act after they were briefed by DOJ officials and FBI officials from the Pittsburgh office about this criminal bribery scheme. Senator Grassley says potentially hundreds of DOJ and FBI officials knew about that bribery scheme but didn't act. What do you think, Hans?
Oh, no, I think that's a real issue. And Saul is exactly right in what he's saying about those letters that Weiss has sent. I mean, just one quick example of this. Look, the IRS whistleblowers say that one of the assistant U.S. attorneys in Weiss's office said no matter how much evidence they had, there was no way they would get a search warrant to go into the guest cottage of Joe Biden where Hunter Biden was living. And someone in that office notified Hunter Biden's lawyers about the fact they wanted to search Hunter Biden's storage unit in Northern Virginia. That's misconduct of the worst kind by DOJ lawyers.
If this had the name Trump on it, Saul, and it involved the Trump administration or Trump and his family, Nancy Pelosi would be out there stampeding around again to, you know, impeach Trump even when he's out of office. I mean, the DOJ just unsealed charges. Let's stay on this. The charges made last year, they unsealed it against Gal Luft. He's reportedly arrested earlier this year in Cyprus. He made bail. Reportedly, he's on the run. He claims he gave the FBI evidence of Hunter and Joe Biden bribery involvement from a source with ties to the Chinese military, as Hans just specified. What do you make of this? He's also accused of being an unregistered foreign agent of China, arms trafficking, Iranian sanctions violations, and more. What do you make of that, Saul?
Well, you never know what to make. It's very common for people accused of multiple crimes to say, hey, I'm being indicted for political reasons. You know, we just don't know because DOJ won't tell us, but I'll tell you this, FARA, the Foreign Agents Registration Act, I mean, the enforcement of that was absolutely lame and pathetic until Donald Trump became president, and all of a sudden it was enforced against Michael Flynn, enforced against his partner, and now enforced against this fellow. So I would like to just make sure that there's even-handed enforcement.
Republicans say Gal Luft should be given immunity to testify what he knows. But watch MSNBC on this and watch Senator Ron Johnson. Watch.
I gotta say,
wow,
Comer's right.
Zach Comer.
Feel like a fool. I mean, seriously, how could we have ever doubted this guy? How could we have doubted Comer?
Comer Simpson.
Oh, the shame. Oh, the humanity. How could we have doubted? How could we have doubted Congressman Comer?
When he heard that Joe Biden was going to be running for president, that alarmed him because he knew how compromised Joe Biden would be. What Dr. Luft has shown is the same financial transactions, the millions of dollars, the $100,000 per month retainer for Hunter, $65,000 for James Biden, paid by CEFC. He's got a wealth of information, but they never followed up on that meeting. Instead, they arrested him in Cyprus to silence him. He's literally fleeing for his life right now. He's on the run. He's an important witness.
So, Hans, it seems like the American people aren't getting the information. MSNBC ignoring multiple government reports, FBI and IRS whistleblowers. They're not reporting or talking about the 150 banks reports filed with Treasury on suspicious activity involving the Biden family deals overseas. And plus a FARA charge against Luft, but not against Hunter Biden.
That's why the House needs to be investigating this, because we don't know what's going on. We don't know why the FBI and DOJ have taken so long to investigate this. Why are they filing such uneven charges? Why have they given a sweetheart deal on taxes in cases where if any of us didn't pay those taxes, we would have all been charged with felonies? There's a lot of unanswered questions here, and all of it makes DOJ and FBI look bad and look very partisan in their behavior.
You know, Saul, we'd like to get your reaction to this. This sound is coming back to haunt Joe Biden. Watch Joe Biden in the early 70s when he became a senator. Watch his comments here.
Well, I'm not sure you should assume I'm not corrupt, but you have to go to those people who have money, and they always want something. You run the risk of deciding whether or not you're going to prostitute yourself to give the answer you know they want to hear in order to get funded to run for that office. I went to the big guys for the money. I was ready to prostitute myself in the manner in which I talked about it, but what happened was they said, come back when you're 40, son.
Prostitute himself? What do you think, Saul? Final word?
As we say in the law, res ipsa loquitur, the thing speaks for itself.
Got it. Hans von Spakovsky, Saul Wisenberg, we'll have you back on again soon. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us.